Today's Tory motion exposes their attitude to this place. They have never believed in the Scottish Parliament, and they still don't. If they were committed to devolution, providing Scottish solutions to Scottish problems, they could have picked any number of important topics to talk about, as Ian Gray highlighted. Topics like the failure of the SNP's financial policies, such as the Scottish Futures Trust and the local income tax. The failure of SNP transport policies, in particular their botched handling of the new Forth crossing. Or the failure of the SNP's education policies, which are under attack from preschool to university providers. But no, they decided to debate this nonsense of a motion, even though no one in this Parliament has the power to call a general election, and after the House of Commons threw out a similar motion last night. Deputy Presiding Officer, this Parliament has an enviable education outreach programme that has seen thousands of Scottish youngsters coming here to Holyrood. I enjoy the question and answer sessions that we as MSPs have with them. One question that regularly comes up is, why did you get involved in politics? My answer to that is simple, because I saw at first hand the damage done to Scotland by Margaret Thatcher and successive Tory governments in those long ago days from 1979 to 1997. Thousands of people thrown out of work, industries like steel making, aluminium smelting, truck and car manufacturing, destroyed by a Prime Minister who famously came to Scotland and told the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland there is no such thing as society. Well, I don't believe that. No, sit down. We've heard enough from the Tories already. I don't believe that. I don't believe the people of Scotland believe that. That's why Scotland has always rejected Thatcherism and why the Scottish Tories are still an endangered species. Only a few weeks ago, we marked the 25th anniversary of the miners' strike, the decimation of Britain's coal industry and the destruction of the National Union of Mine Workers by a Tory Prime Minister using all the forces of the state at her disposal. Mr Johnson thinks it's funny, but there are still communities in Scotland suffering that today. Talking to our visitors that night brought back memories of the lengths that a Tory elite will go to in order to smash the working class. Now, they may believe that they won the war. The Tories find that funny, Deputy Presiding Officer. It's pathetic. They may believe they won the war against the NUM, but they did not break the spirit of those who manned the soup kitchens, who kept their communities going, and they did not erase the memories of what Britain was like under Tory rule. I'll give way to Margaret MacDonald.
The member remembers, as I did, covering the miners' strike as a journalist, and I'm sure he'll remember the devastation that was caused by the lukewarm support that came from the Labour Party.
David Whitton.
Well, I'm sorry I gave way to Margaret MacDonald now, because I don't agree. I don't agree. Not for the first time, Deputy Presiding Officer. I don't agree with a word she said. Absolutely, just like yours there. And yet, let's not forget it was the SNP who let Mrs Thatcher gain power. And ever since then, the real Tories and the tartan Tories, oh, they've woken up, Deputy Presiding Officer. Ever since then, the real Tories and the tartan Tories have colluded against Labour. They were at it again last night in Westminster, aided and abetted by our own First Minister, Alex Salmond, who made his way south for a rare appearance to vote against the Labour government. Who knows how much that's cost the nation in food bills? And yet, for this morning's debate in this Parliament, in which he is First Minister, he is nowhere to be seen. But, Deputy Presiding Officer, in answer to the question in the Conservative motion, no, I do not believe Scotland needs a general election at this time. Over the past year, there has been unprecedented economic turmoil. Our two major banks and one of our leading building societies were literally brought to their knees by a combination of global recession and bad management. And we have already heard this morning the usual guff from the Tories about Gordon Brown's recession, an apt illustration of their failure to understand the nature of the world economic crisis. Yet who was it who put together a rescue plan for the Royal Bank, HBOS and the Dunfermline Building Society? It was Prime Minister Gordon Brown's Labour government, whose financial rescue package of quantitative easing and other measures to stimulate the economy drew international praise. It was Prime Minister Gordon Brown's Labour government. And who was it who organised the G20 summit that brought the most powerful nations in the world to London to draw up a plan to tackle global recession? It was Prime Minister Gordon Brown's Labour government. And what has David Cameron had to offer while all this has been going on? Answer: nothing. Left to him and his shadow Chancellor George Osborne, a man who continually looks like a rabbit caught in the headlights every time he's asked a question about what he'd do to tackle the UK's current economic problems, the United Kingdom would be following the example of Ireland by slashing public spending and putting thousands of public sector workers on the dole. Yet this is the party that the SNP support, not only in today's debate but at other times too, Tories and tartan Tories together. No wonder Derek Brownlee was able to say the next best thing to a Tory government was a government that did what the Tories told them to do. But, Deputy Presiding Officer, there is a glimmer of hope on the SNP, and perhaps someone on the SNP benches will tell us if they agree with Pete Wishart, their MP for Perth, who told the Commons yesterday the last thing Scotland wanted was a Conservative government. That presumably means he prefers a Labour government. In conclusion, Deputy Presiding Officer, now is not the time for a general election. Labour believes there is still work to do and time to do it before an election has to be called. And when the time does come to call a general election, Labour will be back where it belongs, in government.